welcome to the Boardroom. On our show today, next men up. The Michigan men's basketball team finds a way, even with the injuries piling up. And the ball keeps rolling for the women's hoops team, which picked up a big win over Illinois on Monday. And finally, we'll go to the Twittersphere and have some fun with Jim Harbaugh's Twitter account. I'm Max Boltman, and joining me today, our assistant sports editor and women's basketball beat writer, Min Doan. And next to Min, you'll find the Ghost Gase Killa, assistant sports editor and women's basketball beat writer, Jacob Gase. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
All right, well, we're going to start at Chrysler Center, where the men's basketball team somehow eked out a win over Nebraska, putting together one of its best performances of the season, without Karis LeVert and Derek Walton. Min, how are they able to do that?
I think, first of all, you have to talk about how bad Nebraska played. Nebraska's coach, Tim Miles, was visibly disappointed with his team after the game. Taran Petaway, who was a big first-team Big Ten pick last year, only had 7 points. Didn't get his first points until the second half. But on the other side of the court, I think you have to talk about three key players, which were Muhammad Ali, Abdur-rahkman, Max Bielfeldt, and Aubrey Dawkins. Max Bielfeldt was a force on the offensive glass. He also made mid-range jumpers as well as he was forced inside on the offensive. Aubrey Dawkins was 3 for 3, three-point shooting, and then Muhammad Ali, Abdur-rahkman ran the court twice in the second half for 4 points. That really brought the Chrysler Arena on its feet.
Yeah, again, I think you have to start with how poorly Nebraska shot the ball. I don't think you can expect to come into Chrysler Center, even against a 50% healthy Wolverines team, and expect to win when you only make 30% of your shots and 4 of your 19 three-pointers. But on the other side, when Michigan has a lineup with 3 freshmen, none of which are Cam Chapman, who's the most highly touted recruit, no Derek Walton, no Karis LeVert, I think it's pretty impressive that they can pull out a win. And the most encouraging thing, I think, is that Dawkins and Abdur-rahkman actually came in and contributed to that offense, combining for 22 points against Nebraska.
You both talked about Abdur-rahkman and Dawkins. Jacob, what's the most important thing that those two guys can kind of bring to John Beilein?
I think the most important thing is that they don't make very many mistakes at this stage in their early careers. Cam Chapman, a thing that a lot of the fans were getting on him for was his bad shot selection, his foul trouble, just silly little freshman mistakes. And Dawkins and Abdur-rahkman don't make very many of those. Like against Nebraska, they shot over 50% and they only had 2 turnovers apiece, so they're taking care of the ball.
I think the biggest thing for these two guys is their confidence. Like, as I said, Abdur-rahkman ran the court twice. And then Aubrey Dawkins, he was called for a charge, and the next time down, sunk a 3, just as confident as can be. But I think you have to remember that they are freshmen and that they will make mistakes at some point, and you just can't get too down on them.
All right, let's go over to the women's side now, where the Wolverines pulled off a resounding win over Illinois on Monday night. Min, who's been the midseason MVP for this team so far?
I think you have to go with Saisha Gori. She's been the one consistent player on this team. You can look at Caitlin Flaherty, you can look at Shannon Smith, but both of them have had dry spells, shooting the 3-ball mostly. And so I think you have to go with Saisha Gori. She's averaging a double-double in the Big Ten right now. So I think Saisha Gori is definitely our midseason MVP for this team.
Yeah, I think it's Saisha by far as well, and that's just not only because she's averaging a double-double per game on offense, but her defense is actually really underrated. She's forcing these tough Big Ten teams to shoot from the outside, and shooting from the outside is an area where Michigan can beat most teams in the Big Ten. And also her passing as well. She had 4 assists against Illinois, and she's really doing a good job setting up Michigan's outside shooters.
Yeah, with Gori and also Nicole Elmblad, how important is that senior leadership for Kim Barnes-Rico's team as they sort of make a push in the Big Ten?
I think it's crucial, actually. They have not just Elmblad and Gori, but also Shannon Smith as 3 senior stars that they can really count on for leadership and the intangible things like diving for loose balls, drawing contact, drawing fouls, things like that, especially Nicole Elmblad. Kim Barnes-Rico is really high on her in that regard. And it's the experience and the toughness is really something that they need to bring in these tough Big Ten games.
Yeah, I think you have to look at Elmblad. There's a reason that the team picked her as the team captain two straight years. She doesn't do a lot that shows up on the stat sheet. I think she had 2 points and 10 rebounds against Illinois. But what she does is she probably works and hustles harder than anywhere on the court. And I think her and Saisha Gori, they're on the ground more than they're on their feet in most games.
Yeah. Min, what's the ceiling on this team?
I think this team can do big things if they get into the NCAA tournament. But, of course, that spot in the NCAA tournament isn't guaranteed for them. But I think if they get there, they could be on the same track that the men's basketball team had 2 years ago when they just shot lights out. And I think that's the same as this women's team this year.
I agree with Min. I think if they make it into the tournament, I think they're a threat to win 1, maybe 2 games in the tournament, just because the presence that Saisha Gori brings, I don't think a lot of teams can match that. And the outside shooting from Caitlin Flaherty, Sierra Thompson, I think they can outshoot a lot of teams in this conference.
Yeah, that outside shooting is something we've seen teams use a lot in recent years to sort of make up big deficits. Certainly that'd be a factor as well, you'd think.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well now to our favorite sport, Twitter, where new Michigan football coach Jim Harbaugh has been tweeting up a storm since he took the job. Min, you're one of our social media runners at Daily Sports. Is Harbaugh the best tweeter at Michigan?
Well, personally, I don't follow many Michigan personalities on Twitter, but if there's one person I am definitely following, it's Jim Harbaugh. So I would definitely say that he is the best tweeter at Michigan.
Harbaugh's off to a pretty good start, but I don't know that you can say yet that he's better than men's basketball assistant coach Bakari Alexander. Between his interactions with the fans, his inspirational quotes, and his frequent use of hashtags, I think Bakari still has that title.
The hashtags are a classic. Real quick, before we get done here, favorite Jim Harbaugh tweet?
I'm going to have to go with life at Michigan is great, great with a capital G exclamation point.
I'm going to go with attacking this day with enthusiasm unknown to mankind. I know he took it from his dad, but it's one of the most quoted things in Michigan sports these days.
All right, my personal favorite would have to be visiting with a big-time recruit today, Jack Harbaugh, fueling up on bacon. Obviously, Jack Harbaugh, his son, Mighty Jack, the quarterback. All right, that's going to do it for us. Men's basketball finds a way. Women's hoops keeps on rolling. And Jim Harbaugh, a master of 140 characters. That's going to do it for us. Make sure you keep up with our content all week at MichiganDaily.com. Cheers.